Theodore Roosevelt, The Crook. Speech at Kansas City, 1st September 1910. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the more than kind words that you have said. I disagree with some of them. The American people owe nothing to the man whom they have honored by making him president, compared to what that man owes to the American people. I am most deeply sensible of what I owe to the people of the United States, and I shall try to carry myself as, in my opinion, every man who has been president should carry himself. As a man bound in every action of his private life to try to justify the faith the people reposed in him. I particularly appreciate what the chairman said when he said that I had always put patriotism above party. In my judgment, no man is a good American who is not, of course, an American first. An American before he is a member of any section of the American people, such as a party or a class. I hold that the only real service which a party man can render his party is to make that party more responsive to the needs of the American people. There are certain matters which should never be treated as party matters, and foremost among these is the great and vital virtue of honesty. Honesty should be treated as a prime necessity to our success as a nation. The minute that a question of honesty as against dishonesty is involved, then we must all act together as Americans, without the slightest regard to party affiliations. I do not care who a thief is. I regard him as a thief, and not as a party man. The first man to attack a scoundrel in any party should be the man of that party. The chairman was kind enough to say that I had acted up to my words, but I had not preached what I had not at least tried to practice while in office. I certainly did try always to proceed upon the theory that there would be no need of my political opponents raising the cry of "turn the rascals out," for I would turn them out myself. With the invaluable aid of Senator Bristow here, I turned the rascals out of the Post Office Department, and we discriminated just to this extent between any Republican and any Democrat. We gave the precedence to the Republican in pitching him out. And as we dealt with the crooked public official, so we dealt with the crooked private citizen. If satisfactory evidence was brought before me in my capacity as president, I had the Attorney General of the United States to proceed against the highest politician, whether it was a Republican senator in Oregon or in Kansas, or a Democratic governor in Oklahoma. And I will add, gentlemen, that the unfavorable opinions entertained of me by the senators, governors, and other people in question I have always considered as a tribute. I think I value the ill will of those men almost as much as I value the good will of the honest senators, the honest governors, and honest public men with whom it has been my great privilege to work for the welfare of the people. We gave the same justice to the big man and to the little man, to the rich and to the poor man. We never attacked a man because he was a man of one political faith or another, because he did or did not possess wealth, and we never shielded him because he was poor or rich, because he belonged to any particular church or to any particular party. But I also wish you especially to remember that we never hesitated to shield him and stand up for him once we were convinced that he was improperly attacked. There is no greater foe of honesty, no more evil enemy of honesty, than the man who, for any reason, in any capacity, attacks or seeks to attack an honest man for a crime which he has not committed. Falsely accusing an honest man of dishonesty is an act which stands on the same level of infamy with that of the dishonest man himself, and it is no higher duty to attack the dishonest man than it is to exonerate the honest man falsely accused, and I should be ashamed to hesitate the fraction of a second longer in one case than in the other. Remember that honesty cannot be unilateral. Good citizens should cordially distrust the man who can never see dishonesty excepting in men of the class he dislikes. The reckless agitator who invariably singles out men of wealth as furnishing the only examples of dishonesty, the equally unscrupulous, but no more unscrupulous, reactionary, who can see dishonesty only in a blackmailing politician or a crooked labor leader. Both stand on the same plane of obnoxiousness. You will never get honesty from politicians until you exact honesty from businessmen. On the other hand, you brand yourselves as fools or as hypocrites if you say that the corporation owner or the employer is always the dishonest man, and the poor man never. That it is only the wealthy man who corrupts the politician, and never the politician who blackmails the corporation. Any man in his senses knows that there are plenty of corporations in this country that prosper by bribing legislators, just as they prosper by swindling the public, and any man in his senses ought to know, in addition, that there are plenty of corrupt men of small means who, in legislative or other bodies, try to blackmail corporations, and try to blackmail other people as well. If they doubt this, let them look at the revelations of corruption in my own state, New York, and in yours, my hearers, here in Missouri. Let them look at what has occurred in California and what has occurred in Illinois. In Illinois, for instance, one of the rascalities developed by the recent investigation was the existence of a combination of legislators who blackmailed not only wealthy corporations, but poor fishermen along a certain river, forcing them to pay to prevent legislation which would have interfered with their business. Remember that the reason in each case why a man committed a given crooked act is usually to be found in the fact that he was a scoundrel. It was not because he happened to blackmail a rich man or a poor man, but because he was crooked, and he blackmailed the first man that came handy. And you help him if you confine your denunciations of dishonesty to include only the men of one class. Distrust men who would teach you to hate only men of wealth who go wrong. Distrust equally the man, judge, newspaper writer, or wealthy private citizen who cannot see wrong if it is committed by the big businessmen with whom he associates. Above all, distrust the man who ever seeks to get you to support him on the grounds that he will do something wrong in your interest. Now, scoundrels who do these kinds of things are, of course, the very men who, on the one hand, will blackmail a corporation if they get a chance, and, on the other hand, will cheerfully, if the chance occurs, sell themselves to the corporation against the interests of the public. Their corruption is no more due to the action of the corporation than the corruption of the corporation is due to their action. And evil, and not good, is done by the honest but misguided man who would persuade you that either fact is true. Our duty is to war with equal sternness against the corrupt man of great wealth and the small man who makes a trade of corruption. Our fight is against both the swindling corporation and the blackmailing or bribe-taking politician. The politician who whines that he is corrupted by a big corporation and would have been good enough if the corporation had let him alone may safely be put down as a man whose virtue was so frail that it was not worth preserving. We cannot afford to limit a campaign against corruption to those who happen to have a certain social status. We need laws which shall put the corporation out of business so far as concerns corrupting the servants of the public and betraying the rights of the public. I believe that the great issue now before the public is the doing away with special privilege in all its forms, doing away with the power of the big corporation to control legislation in its interests and to interfere in politics in order to secure privileges to which it is not entitled. But I regard the essential factor in this campaign as being an aroused civic conscience which will unsparingly condemn dishonesty in every form and in every man, high or low. It is not the man who inveighs only against corruption as seen in men of wealth who hopes to end all corruption on the part of men of wealth. It is the man who insists on honesty, who strives to bring about a condition when honesty shall be accepted as a matter of course throughout our nation, and when the conscience of the community, the popular spirit in the community, will not tolerate any man who is a crooked man or a dishonest man. The reckless would-be reformer or reckless demagogue who, in speaking or writing, seeks to persuade us that we need pay heed to corruption only when it shows itself in the rich man, is doing as great a moral wrong as the rich man whose low moral standard tends to lower the social standard of the whole community. The people of this country will get justice from the corporations only if they both do justice to them and rigidly exact it from them. Unless they do justice to rich men, they put a premium upon injustice and dishonesty among rich men. Let us hold them to the strictest accountability for any wrongdoing, but let us insist upon honesty in our own ranks no less than in theirs. Let us war on crookedness of every kind in the man of small means as well as the man of large means, and in the man of large means exactly as in the man of small means. Let us judge each man by his conduct and not by his social or financial condition. My friends, you applaud these sentiments. You could not do otherwise. It is a good thing to applaud them, but the necessary thing is to go back to your own homes and in your daily lives to live up to them. Words are of no consequence whatever, except as they are realized in deeds. The promise of a candidate is worse than worthless if it is not made good by his actions if he is elected. A liar on the stump is, if anything, just a shade worse than the liar off the stump, and, on the other hand, if you come to public meetings to indulge in the luxury of applauding fine sentiments which you forget as soon as you leave the building, then all you have done is to weaken a little the spring of your own conscience. If I were asked to name the 3 faults against which we of this free republic should most unrelentingly war, I should name dishonesty, lawless violence, and, in the 3rd place, untruthfulness and mendacity, especially mendacity which takes the form of slander. I have been in politics for 30 years. For 30 years I have striven, so far as the power was given me, to fight for the cause of decency, and I feel that the greatest drawback in any such struggle is the man who consistently speaks what is not true until he misleads the public, so that they cannot tell the true from the false. I do not care whether that man is a politician in the campaign, or a writer in a magazine or in the public press. The very reason that makes it essential that we should point out corruption and misconduct where they exist also makes it essential that we should not lie by saying that they exist where they do not exist. The man that falsely accuses a public servant, who is honest, of dishonesty, is bringing joy to the heart of every crooked man. Nothing so pleases the dishonest man in public life as to have an honest man falsely accused, for the result of innumerable accusations finally is to produce a habit of mind in the public which accepts each accusation as having something true in it, and none as being all true, so that, finally, they believe that the honest man is a little crooked, and that the crooked man is not much more dishonest than the rest. The enormous power of the writers of the country in the public press and in the magazines alike is such that those wielding it should feel that their responsibility is as great as that of the public servants themselves. If, day after day, you read what is not true, it becomes finally impossible for you to tell what is black from what is white, and you look upon all men, good and bad, alike. The liar is as bad as the thief, and he is the right-hand support of the thief. I think that the very highest duty that can be performed by any man who writes is to point out corruption fearlessly and expose all that is crooked, all that is evil, and only less high, and less high by the merest shade, is his duty to speak the truth only, and never to accuse an honest man of dishonesty. I do not ask it on behalf of the honest man. I ask it on behalf of the public, who by such accusations are robbed of the power of discrimination. In the long run, the honest man's reputation will take care of itself. It is not for him, but it is for the people at large who are so puzzled by seeing every man, whether he is honest or not, attacked in the same fashion, that they come to regard all accusations as, on the whole, false, and all men accused as having done something that warrants accusation. And, my friends, so of lawless violence. I have said that I would strive to punish equally the rich and the poor man who does wrong. I would go a bit further, and would punish the rich man a little more, because he has had better opportunities, but be equally stern in dealing with crimes of violence. Do you realize the danger that this country is in from corruption? And do you realize the danger also that comes from lawless violence? Take the working men, the laboring men. I will do everything in my power for them except what is wrong, and that I would do neither for them nor for anyone else. In time of civil disorder, when laws are set at naught and mob violence rules, the first duty of every honest and upright civil official is to restore order. All question of reform must wait until order is restored. While the mob rules, there is no time to find out the right and the wrong of the question at issue between that mob and any person or any corporation. No civilization can exist unless the laws are enforced in due and orderly fashion, and the corrupt man who, with his wealth, plunders his neighbors and corrupts the representatives of the people is no worse than the man who in any way incites his fellow men to violence and murder. I have just come from a trip to Africa, and I had a very good time there. Afterwards I passed through Europe, and I came back thinking well of the countries I had visited, with friendly feelings for them. But, oh, my countrymen, I came back thinking more strongly than ever before that, in spite of all our shortcomings, and in spite of all the things that we have left undone and ought to have done, nowhere on the earth does the average man or the average woman have such a chance to get the best possible out of life as here in our own land. Now, I would not for one moment blind myself to the need of hard work to drive out what is evil in our own country. Let us face the evil boldly and do our best to overcome it. Do not, however, let us make the mistake of shutting our eyes to the good. On the whole, in this great democracy of the West, in this great republic which stands on a continent, which grasps the ocean on either side, popular rights are better guarded than anywhere else, and the average man is given a better chance than anywhere else. My friends, be proud of that fact, and realize the responsibility that accompanies it. I was struck by two things especially while traveling abroad. One was that in every country I visited, the name of America is the symbol of golden hope for the people of other lands. The man with whom life has gone hard, the man who feels that fate is against him, the man who, do what he can, is unable to succeed as he is entitled to succeed, looks longingly to this land as the land which contains the promise for men like him. But, my friends, there was another and sadder side. There was something else. The news of every crime of corruption, every crime of lawless violence committed here in the United States is sent abroad. The news goes abroad to sadden the hearts of those who hope for the success of popular government, and is cause for sardonic mirth to every reactionary who desires to see the great democratic experiment of government by and for the people fail here in the West. Every time that there is an act of flagrant corruption here in the United States, or deed of lawless violence by a mob, or corruption in public life or business life, every time a murderer is acquitted by a jury when he ought to have been convicted, every time a rich malefactor is let off on a technicality, or otherwise there is a failure to secure justice in any case, every time that such things occur, the heart of every opponent of free government is gladdened, and the heart of every man who hopes for the regeneration of humanity through the application of democratic principles today is saddened. I do not suppose that if we refuse to do what is right for our own sakes, we can be expected to do what is right for the sake of others. Yet I believe that you ought to feel a burden of obligation resting upon you, not only because you are the citizens of this republic, but because each of you is, in a measure, the custodian of the hope of the world. If we fail here, if we in America fail in our great experiment of self-government, woe to us, and woe also to all the nations of the earth, whom we will forever rob of the brightest hope that they now have. I ask of you, men and women here, I ask that, in your private and in your public lives, you carry yourselves as you should carry yourselves. You, the men and women upon whose shoulders rests the proud fabric of the greatest republic upon which the sun has ever shone. I ask that you do this for your own sakes. I ask more earnestly that you do it for the sake of the children who are to come after you, for the children who are to inherit this, our land, and have a right to ask that they receive it from us as we received it from our fathers, that we shall pass it on to them intact. And I ask this not only for the sake of your own children, but for the sake of the world, so that America shall always stand as the symbol of golden hope to the nations of mankind.